challenge with the amygdala is that it's really fast in terms of responding, but it's not always accurate, right? It doesn't always read things the right way.
Yes.
So it can go into this fight, flight, freeze kind of mode, but it's not always the best thing for us.
The amygdala is part of the limbic system, which is essentially quite a primal system. And it's our system that is automatic. So it responds automatically to what it is perceiving around us. Specifically, the amygdala is particularly interested in being awake and aware to anything that could potentially be harmful.
I just think that there's too many assumptions around why people don't take action or why young people don't take action. If we all better understand the things that we do and why we do them, then we're more able to either sustain long-term change.
Podclass acknowledges the traditional and true custodians of the land we meet on here today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We're grateful to be here.
So no one told you teaching was gonna be this way. Your lesson plans are jokes, your patience broke, you're feeling in disarray. It's like you're always stuck in report writing, when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your school year. But I'll be here for you
When the students start to riot,
I'll be here for you.
even if your coffee is gone cold,
I'll be here for you, 'cause you're there for them too.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Podclass. As always, you are joined by me. My name is Will.
Hi, Will.
Hey, Skye.
And I'm Skye. And,
Hi, Skye.
And our other friend, Amanda.
I'm Amanda.
And this is the one on the amygdala. I can't say
yeah.
it, so I have to do the finger signs. Amygdala.
Yeah,
This
if you
is the
can't see
one-
Will, he's like signing in the air to help him
Yes.
with the pronunciation.
But this is a part of the brain that is actually the Greek word for almond. And yes, it is.
Is that because it's the shape and size of an almond?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Can you
out.
believe that something so small could create whole body responses in a millisecond?
Exactly. And we're no neuroscientists here, just amygdala fans.
Yeah, we are. We're huge amygdala
Hi,
fans.
we're the Amygdala fan club. So happy to be here.
Actually, I'm a
But we
pretty fan to
really-
a Cortex fan club. I don't know about the two of you.
You're way too rational.
that was really good, Will.
That was a
good by
very
you.
quick
Thank
joke.
you. But we really want to have this conversation because the impact the amygdala has. I didn't do the
You
hand
do the
size and
hand
now I can't
movement.
say it.
Do the hand movement. The
The
impact to the
amygdala has on young people and the decisions that we make is so large and so vast. And we often talk about how young people don't have their prefrontal cortex developed or their, and we want to talk a little bit more about that.
About why, right? Because young people kind of get a bad rap as a result of brain development. It's something we all went through as adults, and it's really easy to retrospectively look back and be like, oh, young people these days, and we were never like that. Whereas in actuality, our brain has to develop, it has to mature at some point, and this is all part of it. This is all part of becoming a young person. It's part of being a young person, and that's the brain.
And I guess like from a starting point, what is the almond good for and why does it exist?
Well, I guess, first of all, let's just clarify that it's not just young people that have an amygdala. It's all humans.
yes.
And the way the amygdala supports us and responds in a protective way to help us is true of all humans, right? So the amygdala is part of the limbic system, which is essentially quite a primal system, and it's our system that is automatic. So it responds automatically in response to what it is perceiving around us. And specifically, the amygdala is particularly interested in being awake and aware to anything that could potentially be harmful or a threat or a risk. And it wants to protect us from that.
And
So it's
also a reward. It will also move us towards rewards.
Yeah.
Rewards and risk. Nice.
Yeah, so it's wired to keep us safe and to give us good things.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
So when
Love that.
we feel like something of us is being threatened, whether it be our beliefs, our values, our autonomy, our amygdala is triggered. At the same time, if we think that our vision or our ego or our status could be rewarded and we're going to feel good about it, our amygdala is triggered.
And we might think like the amygdala is triggered, and we might be listening thinking, oh, it's this tiny little thing, but we will have all literally felt the physiological response of our amygdala. Like, for example, if you imagine the last time you were driving along and you put your indicator on and you went to merge lanes into a lane next to you, but then there was a car there that you hadn't seen and they toot and you quickly have to swerve out. And in that moment, what happens is your whole body responds. You know, your heart starts racing, you can feel, you know, you kind of get
adrenaline
you can get the shake, adrenaline starts
body.
pumping. This is all due to the amygdala.
And it's called amygdala hijack.
And this is, and which is like an awesome thing, right, in terms of its protectiveness. But the challenge with the amygdala is that it's really fast in terms of responding, but it's not always accurate, right? It doesn't always read things the right way.
Yes.
So it can go into this fight, flight, freeze kind of mode, but it's not always the best thing for us in that moment.
And it's sending these messages to our command center to respond in a way that sometimes isn't rational.
Because it doesn't just respond to real risk, it responds to perceived risk. And perceived risk doesn't just happen in physical environments and physical circumstances. It is very real in emotional circumstances. It is very real. Let's talk about our young people for social circumstances. Like, when a young person, especially in teenage years, that awakeness and awareness to social circumstances and wanting to belong, wanting to feel connected to peers, the heightened nature with which the brain is reading those environments and responding to those, and it's like perceived risks are amplified, and it will be it's so primal for our teenagers.
Well, it's that emotional hypersensitivity, right? So it's like all of those things are felt on a really big scale because our young people are constantly seeking proof of status, trying to find respect amongst their peers and others. And so they're hypersensitive to these things going on around them. And their amygdala is supportive in that, but it can also be a big disruptor and can kind of make things a bit more challenging too.
So the amygdala has a key relationship with the prefrontal cortex, which we actually got into quite a robust discussion offline, team, about what is actually, you know, who speaks to who first and why is the amygdala maybe playing a slightly more dominant role in your teenagehood versus in adulthood. Like, what is happening here? And I would just like to rewind and hit play on the excellent discussion that went between the two of you.
Well, Masara, off you go.
Well, we're having this conversation. It was like a good example, I guess, is we've all had an argument with someone and we've just tried to defend everything that we believe in, and then we walk away and like 5 minutes later we're like, oh, well, that was a bit irrational, wasn't it? And our prefrontal cortex is like, hello, we're still here. And
because the prefrontal
this is proof of the amygdala hijacking, right?
Yeah, right. And my belief is that the wires between and the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex aren't as strong as what they are as we get older.
Because we're still maturing, so we're not yet prepared for like that, you know, quote unquote rational thought or rational thinking, which our prefrontal cortex supports us with. I'm reading a really interesting book at the moment, and that book is really unpacking this relationship between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex and looking at the idea that often as adults, when we are guiding young people or guiding teenagers, that we have this idea about how things should go or what they need to do in order to be safe or to be successful or to XYZ, insert thing here. The issue is that our young people don't have the same priorities as what we do. So they have different motivational priorities, which means that when they respond in ways that as an adult observing, we're like, that's absurd. Why did they do that? That was so silly. That was a big risk that they just took or whatever it might be. And so straight away, we kind of slap on this label, this like neurobiological incompetence that their brain isn't yet developed and therefore they need help from adults to tell them what to do. And I think we kind of need to start challenging this idea that young people do know what to do and they do have the skills to do what's required of them. The challenge becomes is that their motivational priorities are different to what us as adults believe they should be. So what I mean by that is that our young people, they know what they want a lot of the time. Like a young person, okay, let's just like example here. You're in a high school, a young person has like a crush on someone, right? They know like logically the steps that they can go to initiate a conversation, talk to that person, have that person notice them, yada, yada, yada. And then you've got a teacher in the background going, oh, this young person's incapable of focusing on anything except for, their socialization or whatever it is, and their grades are going to shit and yada, yada, yada. And the reason being is because that young person's motivational priority isn't the grade or isn't the expected thing that the adult
the
in their
cute
life
crush.
thinks they should be. It's the cute crush, right? It's like they can do all of those things, but where they're channeling that energy is just in a different way to the way that we perceive them, we think they should be.
So the new research that you're reading is contradicting the current research and saying that the amygdala is pretty much generating at like a higher frequency than normal. And do you think that it comes down as they age? Well, does the research say it comes down?
Well, I think the emotion still drives the action, right? Because I think it's that the emotion that's being processed in the amygdala. So whether that is like fear, embarrassment, insert emotion, but then that's driving the motivation.
Because
right?
traditionally the prefrontal cortex is at a lower weight, so it's unable to rationalize as fast or as powerful, I guess.
Well, as the person who was witnessing the quite robust discussion and just re-witnessed it, I actually think that it's like yes and both. So what you're saying, Will, that the amygdala is more,
Skye,
faster to respond and, less, there's less of a connection to the prefrontal cortex when we're younger. And I think Skye's point and what Skye's reading is really, really valid. And too often as adults, we use not fully developed as an excuse for, young people and like being like, oh no, your brain isn't fully developed. Like this is why you should be focused on this, And I think, there's plenty of research to suggest that the prefrontal cortex doesn't finish development until in the 20s. And that also when it comes to the amygdala, being awake and aware to all of the social elements and social dynamics means that perceived risks are heightened, means that the amygdala is going to be firing more rapidly in certain situations and that we might have less access to that logical thinking brain in those situations
and
as well.
I think it comes down, right? Like young people, like even as adults, just as people in general, like we all want to belong somewhere, right? We all want to be socially accepted. We all want to feel as though we have respect.
If you are looking to support the young people in your school or your community to develop their public speaking skills, Youth Engagement Project facilitates public speaking workshops for young people. We follow our 4C public speaking framework, where we explore courage, communication, clarity, and connection, the skills and tools aligned with all 4 of those C's that are essential for effective public speaking skills and communication in general. Give us a call or send us a message.
It just is really heightened in that adolescent period of our lives, and it's really something that is sought after.
Painfully
it
heightened.
it influences everything that we
but
do.
it's priority, right? So if I'm in a relationship, I'm a young person, I'm in a relationship with an adult and I don't feel respected, it's not actually about what the adult says to me. I read between the lines for everything that's not said. And that's what I'm focusing on. And that's where my amygdala identifies threats. So that's where my amygdala identifies maybe a sense of rejection or whatever it might be. And then that's the thing that I'm responding to in that moment.
It's not the words, it's the tonality. We've spoken about it so many times. It's that body language, it's the tonality, how our nervous system is showing up into a room.
Yes. So why are we unpacking this? Why is it important to understand the amygdala?
It's an area that Will is very, very passionate about at the moment.
Yes, it is an area. Do you want to share why? Why are you so passionate about this at the moment?
Well, I just think that there's too many assumptions around why people don't take action or why young people don't take action or they do take action. I think if we all better understand the things that we do and why we do them, then we're more able to either sustain long-term change. And since doing this in-depth new focus that I have and new hobby, I guess you could say, the amygdala.
The brain.
I can pick up on the reactions that I have and why I have them so much. And I'll tell you an example. I did a red eye the other night, so I was a little bit tired in the morning. And
so
then
you flew overnight from Perth to Canberra, right? Bali to Canberra.
I was a little bit tired.
Doesn't matter.
Thanks. Amanda's my travel agent. I was a little bit tired.
And by the way, tonight your red eyes from Melbourne to Perth, just so you know.
You can't do a red eye that way, but yes. Sorry. I was a little bit tired. I was exhausted, you could say, and I had just been to the shops and I had to buy a suit. Suit shopping is not a fun thing to do, nor is it fun tired. And someone on the train, obviously one of my higher values is autonomy, someone on the train told me my shoelace was untied. And I got so angry and so triggered. I was like, well, obviously no. But it was because my autonomy.
They were trying to help you.
Yeah, I know, but my autonomy was being threatened.
How is your autonomy being threatened?
Because they hadn't given Will the opportunity to notice his shoelace was untied himself and do that. So therefore, they stripped
then my
him
amygdala
of
was
his
like,
autonomy to
Will, this
bend down and
whole
tie his
thing
own
is
lace.
slightly irrational. Someone tried to help you because you are quite clumsy by nature.
To be fair, it's his amygdala in action,
It is.
right?
Well and
So-
truly.
It is.
It was so like, but because I know it, I was almost faster. My prefrontal cortex went into real action, was like, oh, well, that was so rational. My amygdala just triggered that. And I think that when people understand that, we are also able to give more grace and understanding to young people and the decisions that we make.
Yes. So what are our key takeaways here? As safe adults, as teachers, as facilitators in the world of young people, why is understanding this so important?
I think as an educator and someone who works consistently with people supporting young people, one of my personal takeaways is to always give the young person the most generous assumption that you can make about however it is that they're responding in that moment. And so the most generous assumption I might be able to make in that moment is, hey, this young person might have their amygdala firing currently, which means that the behavior or the actions that we're seeing as a result of that haven't been yet processed or driven by their prefrontal cortex. And so I can give them some grace.
One of my biggest takeaways is, and there's some really interesting research that's been done around the way and tone with which we communicate, especially with teenagers when they have this heightened sense of awareness of the social dynamics and, you know, specific, I would say, I don't want to say sensitivity because it sounds weak, but it is a specific sensitivity to perceived rejection and perceived risk in social circumstances. The tone and the way with which we deliver information has the capacity to fire the amygdala. It can feel like a perceived risk just through using a harsh tone.
Yeah.
And so I think that being awake to how we're sharing information and how we're communicating with young people is so crucially important. And you know, we see it every day, right? Like if there's a phrase like "you look good today," if I say to Skye and Will right now, "You look good today," like what's that mean?
Oh, she doesn't really think I look good because her tone of voice doesn't suggest that.
Compared to "you look good today."
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God,
you.
thanks, babe.
It's all about the intonation. So we have to be, as that adult in the space, leading the space, we have to be aware of what are we doing with our tone, because it speaks so loudly and it speaks so loudly to the amygdala.
And I think for me, it's like when we feel that amygdala triggering, just give our brain, our prefrontal cortex 30 seconds, 60 seconds to catch up. There's a reason why Gmail lets you undo emails after 10 seconds. Because sometimes that's all it takes to realize I probably shouldn't send this email.
Yeah.
Like just do them the ways that we can bring back and take our out of hijack mode is like breathing slowly. That box breathing that we've spoken about so many times.
And I think another thing, and we should unpack this in a later episode, but I think as an adult supporting a young person, something else that you can do is employ the idea of wise feedback to help prevent the triggering of a young person's amygdala. When we talk about wise feedback, what we mean is by prefacing whatever feedback or you are delivering to a young person with the premise that the reason that you're giving them this feedback or the reason you're having this conversation is because you believe in them, that they're capable and that they're capable of meeting your high standard and expectations. Because otherwise, young people read and hear feedback and the first thing they go to is, my teacher doesn't think that I'm good enough, mum or dad don't think I can do this, whatever it is. But if we preface it with this concept of wise feedback and the reason that we're having this conversation, the reason you're receiving this feedback is actually because you're so capable and I believe in you, the way it's received actually helps to soothe the young person's amygdala and that fight or flight, and they're able to rationally engage with the feedback that's been given.
And I think there's a huge takeaway here personally, as well as those safe adults in the lives of young people, that our amygdala can fire very, very easily as well. And if we are frustrated, if a young person is pushing our buttons, not that they ever do, you know, or if a stranger on a train dares to tell you that your shoelace is undone. I mean, there are wild people out there, everyone. So you've got to, you know, you never know what is going to frustrate you to the end of the earth and what is going to set off your amygdala. Being aware of our own state is so important because when we are in that fight or flight and when we absolutely will have heightened responses and that is going to set off the amygdala of the young people we're working with. So recalibrating our state, knowing our state is crucial.
This has been the one on the amygdala.
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 Amygdala. Thank you,
Thank
Will
you so
Masara.
much. We will see you next week for another part of the brain. Not actually. We're just amygdala
Not
fans.
actually. Okay. Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.
I'll be here for you, 'cause you're there for them too.
Thanks so much for tuning into Podclass. If you've enjoyed this episode, we would adore it if you could go on to Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and leave us a review. 5 stars would be lovely. We would love to get this podcast into as many ears as possible so we can help and support as many people as possible who help young people. And if you're not already doing so, please go along to Instagram and follow us at podclass.aus.